My sister asked me to be her surrogate. I said yes. Now she's demanding I get an abortion. I'm 17 weeks pregnant right now. The baby I'm carrying isn't mine. It's my sister's. I agreed to be her surrogate after she and her husband spent 5 years trying to conceive and failing. I went through the IVF process, the hormone injections, everything. And when I got pregnant, my sister cried with joy. She started buying baby clothes, painting a nursery, planning her entire future around this child. That was 4 months ago. 3 days ago, she showed up at my door with her husband and told me I need to get an abortion. Not because something's wrong with the baby, not because of a medical emergency, but because she and her husband are getting divorced, and she doesn't want the baby anymore. She said it like it was a simple request, like I could just undo 17 weeks of pregnancy because her circumstances changed. When I said no, that I'm keeping the baby, she threatened to sue me. And now I'm sitting here, 17 weeks pregnant with my niece or nephew, realizing I might have to fight my own sister in court for the right to give birth to a baby that's genetically hers. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel where we explore the most complicated family situations you can imagine. If you're new here, hit subscribe because today's story is about surrogacy, family, and what happens when good intentions collide with life-changing circumstances. This one is messy, emotional, and legally complex. Let's dive in. The original poster, let's call her Rachel, is 28 years old, working as a speech therapist at an elementary school in Phoenix, Arizona. She describes herself as family-oriented and empathetic, someone who's always been the peacekeeper between her two sisters. She has this habit of keeping a gratitude journal every night before bed, wears a bracelet her late grandmother made for her that's falling apart, but she refuses to replace, and volunteers at a crisis pregnancy center on weekends helping new mothers. Rachel's older sister Lauren is 34. Successful corporate lawyer, married to her husband Brad for 8 years. They have what Rachel always thought was the perfect life. Big house in a nice neighborhood, 2 luxury cars, annual trips to Europe. But the one thing they didn't have was the one thing Lauren wanted most, a baby. Rachel writes, Lauren has been trying to get pregnant since she was 29. 5 years of trying, first naturally, then IUI, then multiple rounds of IVF. She's had 3 miscarriages, countless negative pregnancy tests, and thousands of dollars spent on fertility treatments. I watched my strong, successful sister break down crying in my living room more times than I can count. She wanted to be a mother so badly it consumed her entire life. Rachel and Lauren had always been close despite the 6-year age gap. Lauren had helped Rachel through college, had been there for every major life event, had been Rachel's biggest cheerleader. When Lauren was struggling with infertility, Rachel had been her support system. 18 months ago, after Lauren's 3rd miscarriage, the doctors told her that carrying a pregnancy to term was unlikely. Her uterus had structural issues that made it nearly impossible to sustain a pregnancy past 12 weeks. But my eggs are fine, Lauren had said. The embryos are healthy. It's just my uterus that's the problem. The doctor had suggested surrogacy. Lauren and Brad could create embryos through IVF, and another woman could carry the baby. The problem was finding a surrogate. Agencies were expensive, $100,000 or more, and the waiting lists were long. Lauren and Brad looked into it but felt overwhelmed by the cost and complexity. One night over dinner at Rachel's apartment, Lauren had broken down. I'm never going to be a mother. I've spent 5 years trying, and I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. Rachel had held her sister while she cried, and in that moment, watching her sister's pain, Rachel had made an offer. I could carry the baby for you. Lauren had looked up, shocked. What? I could be your surrogate. I'm healthy. I've never had any issues. If it's your embryo, your baby, I'd just be carrying it for you. Rachel, that's too much to ask. You're not asking, I'm offering. They'd talked about it for weeks. Brad was hesitant. He didn't want to strain family relationships or put Rachel through the physical toll of pregnancy. Lauren was emotional about it, but hopeful. Rachel had done research, talked to doctors, consulted with surrogacy counselors. The medical evaluation showed she'd be an ideal surrogate. Young, healthy, had never been pregnant before, but had no indicators of fertility issues. The legal part was more complicated. They'd hired a surrogacy lawyer to draw up contracts. The agreement specified the baby would be genetically Lauren and Brad's, created through IVF with their genetic material. Rachel would carry the pregnancy and give birth. Upon birth, Rachel would relinquish all parental rights to Lauren and Brad. Lauren and Brad would cover all medical expenses, plus compensation for Rachel, $30,000 total. Rachel would have no legal rights or responsibilities for the child after birth. Rachel hadn't wanted the money, but the lawyer insisted it was standard practice. Rachel agreed to accept it and planned to put it in a college fund for the baby. Everyone signed the contracts, and 9 months ago, the IVF process began. Rachel went through hormone injections to prepare her body. Then the embryo transfer, one embryo, created from Lauren's egg and Brad's sperm. 2 weeks later, the pregnancy test was positive. Rachel would never forget the moment she told Lauren. Lauren had screamed with joy, actually screamed, then cried so hard she couldn't breathe. Brad had cried too. They'd hugged Rachel and thanked her over and over. "You're giving us everything," Lauren had said. "You're giving us our baby. I can never repay this." "You don't have to repay it. You're my sister. I love you." The first trimester was rough. Rachel had morning sickness, fatigue, hormone fluctuations, but Lauren was there for all of it. She came to every doctor's appointment, held Rachel's hair when she threw up, brought her ginger tea and crackers. They talked about the baby constantly. Lauren had started decorating a nursery, soft yellow walls, a white crib, a rocking chair in the corner. She bought tiny clothes, stuffed animals, books to read to the baby. At 12 weeks, they found out they were having a girl. Lauren cried. Brad cried. Rachel cried. They were all so happy. Lauren started referring to the baby by name. Olivia. "Olivia kicked today. I wonder what Olivia will look like. I can't wait to hold Olivia." Rachel was happy to carry Olivia for her sister. The pregnancy was progressing well. The baby was healthy. Lauren was finally going to be a mother. And then, at 16 weeks, everything fell apart. Lauren had seemed stressed for about 2 weeks, short-tempered, distracted. She'd missed a couple of doctor's appointments, which was unusual. When Rachel asked if everything was okay, Lauren said she was just busy with work. Then on a Friday evening, Lauren called. "Can I come over? I need to talk to you." "Of course. Is everything okay?" I'll be there in 20 minutes." When Lauren arrived, Brad was with her. They both looked terrible, like they'd been crying for days. Rachel made tea, tried to stay calm. "What's going on?" Lauren and Brad exchanged a look. Then Lauren said, "Brad and I are getting divorced." Rachel felt her stomach drop. "What? Why?" "It's complicated, but we've been having problems for a while. The fertility stuff put a lot of strain on our marriage, and we've been in therapy, but it's not working. We want different things." "I'm so sorry. Wow. Are you sure?" "We're sure," Brad said quietly. "We've tried everything. It's just not working anymore." Rachel processed this. "Okay, I know this must be so hard, but you have the baby coming? Maybe that will help." Lauren and Brad exchanged another look, this one more uncomfortable. "About the baby," Lauren said carefully. "Rachel, we need to talk about options." "Options?" "Brad and I don't think bringing a baby into this situation is the right choice. We're getting divorced. We're going to be fighting over custody, dealing with lawyers, dividing assets. It's going to be ugly. A baby shouldn't come into that." Rachel felt cold. "What are you saying?" "We want you to terminate the pregnancy." The words hung in the air like poison. "You want me to abort the baby?" "We know it's a lot to ask," Brad said. "But Rachel, think about it. Lauren and I are splitting up. Neither of us is in a position to raise a child alone. The whole reason we wanted a baby was to raise it together as a family. That's not happening anymore. So you're just giving up on Olivia?" "This isn't giving up," Lauren said, her voice shaking. "This is recognizing that circumstances have changed. Rachel, you're 17 weeks pregnant with a baby that Brad and I can't parent. It's better to end the pregnancy now than to bring a child into a broken situation. Rachel stood up. No, absolutely not. Rachel? No, this is a baby, Lauren. A healthy baby. Your baby. You've spent 5 years trying to get pregnant, and now that you finally have a baby on the way, you want to just throw it away because your marriage didn't work out? That's not fair, Brad said. What's not fair is asking me to abort a healthy baby at 17 weeks. Do you understand what you're asking me to do? We understand it's difficult, Lauren said. But Rachel, legally, this is our decision. The baby is genetically ours. The surrogacy contract gives us the right to make medical decisions about the pregnancy. Medical decisions about necessary interventions, not elective abortions because you change your mind. We've talked to our lawyer. We have the right to request termination. Rachel felt tears running down her face. I won't do it. I won't kill your baby. Lauren's expression hardened. If you refuse, we'll sue you for breach of contract. Then sue me. I'm not getting an abortion. Brad stood up. Rachel, please, we're trying to handle this reasonably. We don't want a legal battle, but if you won't cooperate, we'll have no choice. Get out, Rachel said. Both of you, get out of my apartment. They left. Rachel stood in her living room, 17 weeks pregnant, shaking. Stop here with me. You're Rachel. You agreed to carry your sister's baby as a surrogate. You're 17 weeks pregnant. Everything has been going well. And now your sister and her husband, who are getting divorced, want you to terminate the pregnancy because they don't want to co-parent. What do? You're legally bound by a surrogacy contract. But morally, how can you abort a healthy baby that you've been carrying for your sister? This is where the story gets impossibly complicated. Because what Rachel does next puts her in legal jeopardy. But what she discovers about Lauren and Brad's real motivations makes the situation so much darker. Rachel didn't sleep that night. She kept her hand on her belly, feeling the small movements that had just started a few days ago. Baby Olivia, kicking and alive inside her. How could Lauren ask her to end this? How could she give up on the baby she'd wanted so desperately? The next morning, Rachel called her parents, told them everything. They were horrified. Lauren wants you to do what? Her mother said. Get an abortion. She and Brad are divorcing and they don't want the baby anymore. Her father got on the phone. Rachel, you don't have to do this. You can refuse. They're threatening to sue me for breach of contract. Let them sue. You can't be forced to get an abortion. That's your body, your choice. Rachel's mother added, I'm calling Lauren right now. This is unacceptable. Rachel's parents did call Lauren. It didn't go well. Lauren told them this was between her and Rachel, that they didn't understand the complexity of the situation, that the surrogacy contract gave her legal rights. The family was fracturing. Rachel's younger sister, Emily, called Rachel in tears. I can't believe Lauren is doing this. This is insane. Rachel spent the weekend researching surrogacy law in Arizona. What she found was complicated. Surrogacy contracts varied in enforceability depending on the state. In Arizona, surrogacy was legal but regulated. The key questions were, could a surrogate be forced to have an abortion? What rights did the intended parents have over medical decisions during pregnancy? What happened if the intended parents no longer wanted the baby? Rachel found several cases where surrogacy agreements had broken down. In most cases, the surrogate could not be legally forced to terminate a pregnancy. Bodily autonomy trumped contract law, but the intended parents could potentially sue for breach of contract, for damages, for the money they'd spent. Rachel also found something else. If she gave birth to the baby and Lauren and Brad didn't want it, the legal situation became murky. Genetically, the baby was theirs. But if they refused to take custody, what happened? In some cases, the surrogate ended up with parental rights by default. In others, the state got involved and the baby could end up in foster care. It was a legal nightmare. On Monday, Rachel got a letter from a lawyer. Lauren and Brad were officially demanding she terminate the pregnancy. They were giving her 2 weeks to comply before filing a lawsuit. Rachel immediately hired her own lawyer, a woman named Patricia who specialized in reproductive rights. Patricia reviewed the surrogacy contract. This contract gives them input on medical decisions, but it doesn't explicitly give them the right to demand an elective abortion. You have bodily autonomy. They can't force you to terminate. Can they sue me? They can try. They might sue for breach of contract, for the compensation they paid you, for medical expenses. But forcing you to have an abortion? That won't hold up in court. What if I want to keep the baby? Patricia looked at her seriously. Keep the baby? As in, raise it yourself? If Lauren and Brad don't want her, yes. She's my niece. I've been carrying her for 17 weeks. I can't just let her go into foster care or whatever. Rachel, this is complicated. Genetically, the baby isn't yours. The surrogacy contract stipulates you relinquish all parental rights. If you try to claim parental rights, Lauren and Brad could sue you for that too. So what am I supposed to do? Abort the baby or give birth and hand her over to parents who don't want her? There might be another option. If Lauren and Brad formally terminate their parental rights, which they'd have to do if they're refusing to take custody, you could potentially petition for adoption as a biological relative. But that's a long legal process with no guaranteed outcome. Rachel felt trapped. Every option led to legal battles, family destruction, or impossible choices. That night, Rachel's mother came over. They sat together in the nursery Rachel had started preparing, a small second bedroom with a bassinet and some baby clothes Lauren had given her to keep at her apartment. What are you going to do, honey? I'm not getting an abortion. I can't. This baby is healthy and alive, and she deserves a chance. Even if it means fighting Lauren in court? Even then. Her mother held her hand. Then we'll support you. Whatever you need. Rachel was grateful, but also heartbroken. Lauren had been her closest sister, her role model, and now they were on opposite sides of an impossible situation. A few days later, Rachel got a call from Brad. Rachel, can we talk? Just the two of us? They met at a coffee shop. Brad looked exhausted. I need to tell you something, he said. Something Lauren doesn't want you to know. Rachel's stomach tightened. What? Lauren and I aren't just getting divorced. Lauren is having an affair. Rachel felt the world tilt. What? She's been seeing someone from her firm for about 6 months. That's why our marriage fell apart. I found out about it 3 months ago. We've been in counseling, but she wants to be with him. Who is he? His name is Derek. He's a senior partner at her firm. Divorced, no kids. And he doesn't want kids. He's made that very clear to Lauren. Rachel's mind raced. So Lauren wants the abortion because her boyfriend doesn't want children? Partially, but there's more. Derek is up for a major promotion. He's being considered for managing partner. Lauren thinks if she has a baby, especially in a messy custody situation with me, it'll hurt Derek's chances. The firm is very image conscious. They don't want drama. So she's choosing her boyfriend's career over her own baby? That's what it looks like to me. But Lauren would tell you it's more complicated, that she and Derek are serious, that they're planning a future together, that bringing a baby into the situation would derail everything. Rachel felt sick. This whole time, the entire pregnancy, she's been seeing someone else? Yes, she wanted to tell you after the baby was born. Thought it would be easier if you didn't know during the pregnancy. Why are you telling me now? Because you deserve to know the real reason she's asking for the abortion. It's not just about the divorce. It's about her new relationship. And I think that's wrong. She wanted this baby so badly, and now she's throwing it away for a man who doesn't want to deal with the inconvenience. Rachel sat in stunned silence. What do you want, Brad? Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to fight for custody. The baby is half mine genetically, but another part of me knows I'm not ready to be a single father. I'm still processing the divorce, the affair, everything. I don't think I can give a baby what she needs right now. So you're okay with the abortion? I'm not okay with it, but I understand Lauren's reasoning, even if I don't agree with it. And I don't think I have the capacity to fight her on this and fight for the baby. Rachel felt angry. So you're both just giving up? I know how it looks, and I'm not proud of it. But Rachel, I need to ask you, if you give birth to this baby, what's your plan? Are you going to raise her yourself? I don't know. Maybe. If Lauren and Brad don't want her, someone has to. You understand that's not a small commitment. That's 18 years. That's your life changing completely. Are you ready for that? Rachel put her hand on her belly. I don't know if I'm ready, but I know I can't kill her just because you and Lauren decided she's inconvenient now. Brad nodded. Then I think you should do what you think is right. I'm not going to sue you. I'll talk to Lauren, try to get her to drop the legal threats, but I can't promise she'll listen. After Brad left, Rachel sat in her car and cried. Her sister, her hero, her role model, was choosing a man over the baby she'd spent 5 years trying to have. It was devastating, but it also clarified something for Rachel. This wasn't about Lauren's rights as the genetic mother. This was about a baby who deserved to be born and loved, and who was being discarded for selfish reasons. Rachel made a decision. She was going to give birth to this baby, and if Lauren and Brad didn't want her, Rachel would raise her herself. Even if it meant losing her sister, even if it meant years of legal battles, even if it meant completely upending her own life. Baby Olivia deserved better than to be aborted because she was inconvenient. Would you have kept digging at this point or let it go? Because Rachel just discovered that her sister's request for an abortion isn't about the logistics of co-parenting after divorce. It's about choosing a new boyfriend over the baby she desperately wanted. That changes the moral calculus, doesn't it? But what Rachel discovers next, about why Lauren really chose her as a surrogate in the first place, that's the detail that makes this entire situation even more twisted. Rachel's decision to keep the baby and potentially raise it herself didn't sit well with Lauren. The legal threats escalated. Lauren's lawyer sent another letter. If Rachel didn't comply with the termination request within 1 week, they'd file a lawsuit for breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with parental rights. Rachel's lawyer, Patricia, filed a counter motion, asserting Rachel's bodily autonomy, her right to refuse an elective medical procedure, and preliminary paperwork for Rachel to seek custody if Lauren and Brad formally terminated their parental rights. The family was in chaos. Rachel's parents were furious with Lauren. Emily refused to speak to Lauren. Family group chats that had once been full of baby excitement were now silent or full of arguments. And Rachel was 19 weeks pregnant, feeling baby Olivia move more every day while preparing for a legal battle with her own sister. Then Rachel got a call from someone unexpected. Lauren's best friend, Michelle. Rachel, I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet? They met at Michelle's house. Michelle looked uncomfortable. I'm probably violating girl code by telling you this, but I think you need to know. Know what? Why Lauren really asked you to be her surrogate. Rachel felt cold. What do you mean, really? Michelle took a breath. Lauren has been having fertility issues, yes, but the doctors never said she couldn't carry a pregnancy. They said it was risky, that she'd need monitoring, but it was possible. That's not what she told me. She said her uterus couldn't sustain a pregnancy past 12 weeks. She exaggerated. The truth is, Lauren didn't want to be pregnant. She wanted a baby, but she didn't want to deal with pregnancy. The weight gain, the physical changes, the career interruption. She's a partner-track lawyer. Taking maternity leave would have set her back. Rachel felt her world shifting. So she lied to me? Not exactly lied, but she let you believe it was medically necessary when it was really a choice. She could have carried the baby herself. She just didn't want to. Why tell me now? Because Lauren's now saying she never really wanted a baby at all, that it was Brad's idea, that she went along with it to save the marriage. She's rewriting history to justify the abortion request, and I can't stay quiet about that. Did she want the baby or not? Honestly, I think she wanted the idea of a baby, the Instagram-perfect family photos, the mommy and me classes, but she didn't want the reality, the sleepless nights, the sacrifice, the work. And when Derek came along and offered her a life without kids, she jumped at it. Rachel absorbed this. She used me. She needed a surrogate she could control. Family is easier to manipulate than an agency surrogate. She knew you'd do it because you love her, and she knew you wouldn't push back if things got complicated. Did Brad know that the surrogacy wasn't medically necessary? I don't think so. Lauren told him what she told you, that she couldn't carry safely. Brad trusted her. After Michelle left, Rachel sat in her car feeling betrayed on a whole new level. Lauren hadn't needed a surrogate for medical reasons. She'd wanted one for convenience. She'd let Rachel go through hormone injections, physical changes, morning sickness, all so Lauren wouldn't have to. And now when the baby was inconvenient to Lauren's new life plan, she wanted Rachel to just terminate the pregnancy like it meant nothing. Rachel felt rage building. She'd been used, manipulated, treated like an incubator for a baby Lauren didn't actually want badly enough to make any sacrifices for. That evening, Rachel showed up at Lauren's house unannounced. Lauren answered the door, looked surprised. Rachel, what are you? You lied to me about needing a surrogate. Michelle told me everything. Lauren's face hardened. Michelle had no right. You could have carried this baby yourself, but you didn't want to because it would have interfered with your career. So you used me. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me, Lauren. Explain how you spent 5 years supposedly desperate for a baby, convinced me to be your surrogate, and now you want to abort her because she's inconvenient. I've changed my mind. People are allowed to change their minds. Not about a baby. Not when someone else is pregnant with her. You don't get to decide at 19 weeks that you don't want her anymore. Legally, I can request termination of the pregnancy. The baby is genetically mine. The pregnancy is my body. You can't force me to have an abortion. Then I'll take you to court. I'll sue you for everything. For the medical expenses, for the compensation, for breach of contract. I'll make your life hell. Rachel stepped closer. Do it. Sue me. Take me to court. Because I am not aborting this baby. And if you don't want her when she's born, I'm keeping her. I'm raising my niece because her own mother cares more about her boyfriend's career than her child's life. You can't keep her. She's not genetically yours. Then take custody. Be her mother. You can't have it both ways, Lauren. You can't demand I abort her, but also claim parental rights. Lauren was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that made Rachel's blood run cold. I'll give up my parental rights. I'll sign whatever paperwork necessary to terminate my legal relationship to the baby. But I won't let you keep her either. What does that mean? If you give birth to this baby, and I've terminated my rights, and Brad has too, the baby becomes a ward of the state. She'll go into the foster system. Is that what you want? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't send your own child into foster care. Try me. I don't want this baby, Rachel. I don't want the responsibility, the judgment, the tie to Brad forever. If you force me to let you give birth, I'll make sure the situation is so complicated legally that you can't just take her home and play happy family. Rachel felt tears streaming down her face. What happened to you? You used to be kind, compassionate. Now you're threatening to send a baby into foster care to punish me? I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting my future. My life with Derek. We have plans, Rachel. Good plans. And a baby doesn't fit into them. Then sign away your rights and let me adopt her. Why should I make it easy for you? You're defying my wishes. You're refusing to terminate. You deserve whatever legal hell this creates. Rachel left, shaking with rage and fear. Over the next week, Rachel consulted with multiple lawyers. The consensus was, Lauren couldn't force Rachel to have an abortion, but Lauren could terminate her parental rights. If both genetic parents terminated their rights and refused custody, the baby would likely become a dependent of the state. Rachel could try to adopt as a biological relative, but it would be a lengthy process with no guarantee. Rachel might end up giving birth and having the baby placed in foster care while the legal process played out. It was a nightmare scenario. Rachel could refuse the abortion, give birth, and potentially still lose the baby to the system while fighting for custody. But there was no other choice. Rachel couldn't abort a healthy baby at 19 weeks to avoid legal complications. She prepared for the fight, got a better lawyer, started documenting everything, reached out to adoption agencies to understand the process, And then, 2 days before Lauren's deadline to file the lawsuit, Rachel got a call from Brad. "Rachel, you need to come to my apartment now. There's something you need to see." I know what you're thinking. This seems like it's about Lauren being selfish, choosing her boyfriend over her baby, threatening to put the child in foster care to punish Rachel. But something felt off to me when I read this story. Lauren's behavior was too extreme, too vindictive. And when Rachel got to Brad's apartment, what he showed her explained everything, but not in the way you'd expect. Because the real reason Lauren wanted the abortion had nothing to do with Derek or her career. Okay, but here's the detail that broke the whole case open. Rachel arrived at Brad's apartment 20 minutes after his call. He looked agitated, kept running his hands through his hair, a nervous habit. "What's going on?" "I found something, going through old medical records for the divorce proceedings. Rachel, I don't think Lauren was ever infertile." Rachel sat down slowly. "What?" Brad pulled out a folder. "These are Lauren's medical records from her OB/GYN. I got them legally through discovery for the divorce. Look at this." He showed Rachel test results from 5 years ago, when Lauren first claimed to be struggling with infertility. The tests showed normal ovarian function, normal hormone levels, no structural abnormalities. The doctor recommended trying for 6 more months naturally before pursuing intervention, Brad said. But Lauren insisted on starting IVF immediately. "She told me the doctor said we needed to be aggressive, but according to these notes, that's not what the doctor said at all." Rachel looked through more documents, found records of the 3 miscarriages Lauren had mentioned. But the medical details were strange. One miscarriage had occurred at 4 weeks, barely detectable on a pregnancy test, common enough not to be medically concerning. Another at 6 weeks, again, within the range of normal early pregnancy loss. The third at 8 weeks. The medical notes indicated it was likely a chemical pregnancy, an embryo that never properly implanted. "These aren't the devastating late-term miscarriages Lauren described to us," Rachel said slowly. "No, they're very early losses, common ones, the kind that happen to many women and don't indicate an infertility problem." "So Lauren was never infertile?" "I don't think so. I think she had normal, common early pregnancy losses and used them to justify IVF and surrogacy." Rachel felt dizzy. Why would she do that? That's what I couldn't figure out, until I found this. Brad pulled out another document, an email chain between Lauren and her doctor from 3 years ago. In it, Lauren asked about options for having a baby without being pregnant. The doctor explained surrogacy. Lauren asked if it was possible to use surrogacy even without medical necessity, for lifestyle or career reasons. The doctor's response was clear. Surrogacy for convenience rather than medical necessity is ethically complicated and not something I can officially support. If you want to pursue surrogacy, we'd need to document a medical reason. 2 months later, Lauren started reporting more severe symptoms, more dramatic descriptions of her structural uterine issues, enough to build a medical case for surrogacy. "She manufactured a medical need," Rachel whispered. "It looks that way. And when we went to her specialist, the one who ultimately recommended surrogacy, Lauren had already shaped the narrative. She presented her history in a way that made surrogacy seem medically necessary." "But why? If she could carry a baby herself, why go through all this?" Brad hesitated. I think Lauren never actually wanted to be pregnant, not because of career concerns, but because of something else." He showed Rachel one more document, a psychological evaluation from when Lauren was in college, part of her medical records. The evaluation noted, patient reports severe anxiety around bodily changes and loss of control. Patient experienced trauma related to watching her mother's difficult pregnancy and postpartum depression. Patient expresses strong aversion to the idea of pregnancy. Rachel's mother had struggled severely after Emily was born. Rachel had been too young to remember, but she knew it had been bad. Months of postpartum depression, hospitalization, talk of never having another child. Lauren had been 8 years old enough to remember, old enough to be traumatized by watching her mother suffer. "Lauren has tocophobia," Brad said quietly. "Fear of pregnancy. She wanted a baby, but the idea of actually being pregnant terrified her. So she found a way to have one without going through pregnancy herself. By manipulating me into being her surrogate. Yes. And when the marriage fell apart and the baby was no longer part of her life plan, she couldn't just change her mind publicly. She'd built this whole narrative about fertility struggles and medical necessity. Admitting she never actually needed a surrogate would expose the lie. So she'd rather abort the baby than admit she lied? I think so. And there's more. Brad pulled up an email on his phone. Recent, from 2 days ago. From Derek to Lauren. Babe, I looked into it. If you terminate the pregnancy now, there's no legal record of you being a parent. The surrogacy contract becomes void. It's like it never happened. But if the baby is born, even if you give up rights, it creates a legal trail. People will know. The firm will find out. It's better to end it now. Derek's been coaching her, Rachel said, horrified. He sees the baby as a liability, evidence of messy personal life that could hurt his career and, by extension, Lauren's. They want it erased completely. Rachel felt sick. This wasn't about logistics or parenting capacity. This was about image, about maintaining a professional persona, about erasing evidence of Lauren's lies. What do we do? Rachel asked. I've thought about this a lot, and I've decided I want custody. Rachel looked up, surprised. What? I'm the baby's biological father. I initially said I wasn't ready, and I'm still not. But I can't let Lauren abort our daughter to protect her boyfriend's reputation. And I can't let her manipulate the system to send the baby into foster care. So I'll take custody. I'll raise her. Brad, are you sure? No, but I'm more sure about this than I am about doing nothing. Will you help me? Rachel thought about baby Olivia, about 19 weeks of pregnancy, about the kicks she'd started to feel, about the nursery Lauren had decorated that would now sit empty. Yes, I'll help you. But Brad, I want to be part of her life. I'm her biological aunt, and I've been carrying her. I want visitation, a relationship. We can figure that out, but first we need to stop Lauren's lawsuit and establish that I'm claiming parental rights. Over the next week, Brad filed legal paperwork claiming his parental rights and requesting custody. He revoked his consent for termination, and he threatened Lauren with exposure. If she pursued forcing an abortion, he'd go public with the medical records showing she'd manipulated the surrogacy process. Lauren was trapped. She couldn't force the abortion without Brad's consent, and she couldn't pursue the lawsuit without risking exposure of her lies. 3 days after Brad's filing, Lauren's lawyer contacted Rachel's lawyer. They were dropping all legal action. Lauren would terminate her parental rights voluntarily. Brad would take full custody. Rachel would relinquish legal parental rights as the surrogate, but negotiate visitation as a biological relative. It was over. Baby Olivia would be born. Brad would raise her. Rachel would be Aunt Rachel. Present, involved, loving. Rachel writes her update 4 months later, 2 weeks after giving birth. Olivia was born healthy at 39 weeks. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, perfect in every way. Brad was in the delivery room with me. So were my parents. Lauren was not invited and didn't ask to be. Giving birth to Olivia was the hardest thing I've ever done physically, but giving her to Brad to take home while I recovered in the hospital was the hardest thing I've ever done emotionally. I knew it was coming. I knew the plan, but after 40 weeks of carrying her, feeling her move, talking to her, loving her, handing her over felt like my heart was being ripped out. The surrogacy contract is void now, since Lauren terminated her rights. Brad and I worked out a new agreement. I have visitation twice a week. I'm Aunt Rachel. I get to watch her grow up, be part of her life, love her. But I'm not her mom. I'm the woman who carried her and then gave her to her father to raise. Lauren and I haven't spoken since the day she dropped the lawsuit. She's moved in with Derek. They got engaged last month. I saw it on social media. The announcement made no mention of a baby, of surrogacy, of the daughter Lauren carried genetically but never wanted. My relationship with Lauren is destroyed, maybe permanently. My parents have tried to facilitate reconciliation, but I can't. Every time I look at Olivia, I think about how Lauren was willing to abort her to protect a boyfriend's career. Lauren has sent one email since Olivia was born. It said, I hope you understand someday that I did what I thought was best for everyone. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted a different life than the one that baby represented. I haven't responded. I don't know if I ever will. Brad is a good father. Better than I expected. He's exhausted and overwhelmed. But he's trying. My parents help a lot. I help when I can. We're building a village around Olivia because that's what she deserves. People ask if I regret being a surrogate. No, I regret not understanding what I was getting into. I regret trusting Lauren without asking more questions. I regret not seeing her tocophobia and the lengths she'd go to avoid pregnancy. But I don't regret Olivia. She exists because I carried her. She's alive because I refused to abort her. That matters. Some people think I should have just complied with Lauren's request. That bodily autonomy includes the right to end a pregnancy, even a surrogate pregnancy. That I prioritized a fetus over my sister. I disagree. Once I was pregnant, Olivia became a life I was responsible for. Lauren's right to choose ended when she transferred that embryo into my body. My bodily autonomy meant I got to choose whether to continue the pregnancy, and I chose life. Others think I should have fought for custody myself, tried to become Olivia's legal mother instead of letting Brad take her. Maybe, but Brad is her biological father. He wanted her, and I'm still in her life as Aunt Rachel. That feels like enough. The hardest part is explaining this to Olivia someday, when she's old enough to understand. How do I tell her that her biological mother wanted to abort her? That she was carried by her aunt? That her existence is the result of lies, manipulation, and a family torn apart? I don't have those answers yet. What I do have is a healthy niece who smiles when she sees me, who falls asleep on my chest during my visits, who will grow up loved by her father, her grandparents, and the aunt who carried her into this world. That has to be enough. This story is devastating because there are no clear villains or heroes. Lauren had tocophobia, a real diagnosable fear of pregnancy. She wanted a baby, but couldn't face carrying one herself. Instead of being honest about it, she created an elaborate lie about infertility and medical necessity. Was that wrong? Yes, but it came from a place of trauma and fear. Rachel agreed to be a surrogate to help her sister. She went into it with love and good intentions. When circumstances changed, she made the choice to protect the life she was carrying. Was that right? Many people would say yes, but it also meant overriding Lauren's wishes for a pregnancy Lauren had genetically created. Brad started out overwhelmed and willing to defer to Lauren, but when he understood what Lauren was really doing, manipulating the situation to erase evidence of the baby, he stepped up and claimed custody. Is he a hero? He's a father who wasn't sure he was ready, but chose responsibility over convenience. That's something. The question that haunts me, whose rights matter most in a surrogacy situation? The intended parents created the embryo genetically, but the surrogate is the one whose body is pregnant. If they disagree about continuing the pregnancy, who wins? Rachel believed that once she was pregnant, the baby's right to life superseded Lauren's right to decide. Lauren believed her genetic connection gave her the right to decide the pregnancy's outcome. There's no easy legal or ethical answer. What I know is this. Olivia is alive because Rachel refused to abort her. Olivia will grow up knowing her Aunt Rachel carried her. And someday, Olivia will have to decide for herself whether her aunt did the right thing. This story makes me wonder, how well do we really know the patterns of our own lives? Have you ever had a tiny inconsistency that led to a big truth? Rachel noticed something off about Lauren's medical history, and Brad found the evidence that exposed the entire lie. If they hadn't dug deeper, they never would have known Lauren could have carried Olivia herself. What patterns are you not questioning in your own life? What lies are hidden in plain sight? Let me know in the comments. Do you think Rachel was right to refuse the abortion? Should she have complied with Lauren's wishes? Would you have done the same thing? This is one of those stories where I genuinely understand both perspectives, and that's what makes it so painful. If this story affected you, hit that like button and subscribe. Share it with someone who appreciates complex moral dilemmas, and maybe think about the promises you make to the people you love, because sometimes keeping those promises means making choices that will cost you everything.